Colin's giving me the evil eye over there. Or is that the thumbs up?
Let's do it.
A little of both. A little evil eye, a little thumbs up.
I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
Welcome back to the Politics Unplugged podcast. And today we're going to talk a little business here with the head of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Danny Seiden. Danny.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dennis. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. Love talking shop, chopping it up with you, talking some business, some politics. You're a guy that's in the know. For those who don't know, you used to work for the Ducey administration before taking over the head of the chamber. So you're well schooled in the arts of both business and politics. And today you wanted to talk about. And before we get into the sexier political topics. We wanted to talk a little bit about gas, natural gas.
There's a big natural pipeline. Gas is sexy. This pipeline it's a big deal because you can't talk about anything in the economy right now without talking about power and energy, and that's what this pipeline's all about.
Yeah, let's set the stage here. You're talking about a pipeline that's coming from West Texas into the Valley. It's supposed to bring more natural gas. This is an administration that is the White House is more invested in this kind of traditional energy source than clean energy. So therefore, we're seeing some more investments in this type of stuff coming here to Arizona.
And I would just say, the state utilities that are on board with this, they would point this out in response to that. The natural gas burns cleaner than coal. That natural gas is cheap, it's sustainable.
Everything burns cleaner than coal, Danny.
But
no,
come on.
No,
fair point. But I think natural gas has been villainized at different times, and it really doesn't have very high emissions. So it's a good bridge until that technology, until solar and wind is really doing what it's supposed to be doing. Because what people care about right now is reliability and affordability. Those are the top two issues in every ratepayer's
reliability,
mind.
Affordability, and the AC.
Keeping AC. It's 118 degrees right now here in Arizona. That warm hug waiting for us out there. The power stays on because of planning like this gas pipeline, which half of our state powers on natural gas, nearly half of our state, and now we can continue that. This is a great project.
Yeah, so let's talk about the bottom line because people want to know what it means to them. You're going to see cheaper rates. Are their rates going to go down? What are they going to see? Because this is we can talk about the job production and whatnot, but this is a big benefit to certain companies. But what does this mean for the consumer out there?
It's a benefit for everyone. As we said, nearly half the state is powered on natural gas. So having an additional source to generate energy, like a pipeline, which will bring plants and things with it, that is big news for everyone. Now, it's tough to say exactly what will happen with rates because this is an asset that likely won't be online because of permitting and other things. So about 4 to 5 years is what it'll take to build. But at that point in time, we will have planned and executed how we are going to power our houses. How are we going to keep our AC on? How are we going to keep the jobs and the manufacturing facilities going? States right now are talking about these 10-year plans and coming up with ideas. This is the step one of executing something amazing. And so that's why it matters. That's why it should matter to people because your AC is going to work in 4 to 5 years, which is huge. Yeah.
As long as you keep getting it maintenance, the AC, get it.
Change your filters.
Change your filters. Make sure someone comes out when the weather's cool. Don't wait for it to break
it
down.
For April, you get your
But let's talk a little bit about one of the things I know about business is business loves certainty.
Yep.
How good is a deal like this? Because it seems like we could be in a cycle where every 4 years we have a new president who can radically change his energy policy. We had just come out of a president and Joe Biden who was very dedicated to green energy. Before that, it was Trump who was not. It was dedicated to traditional energy, fossil fuels, this kind of stuff. So you're sitting there saying, "Oh, this is going to be great," until a few years from now, somebody who has a different outlook on this gets into office, right?
Well, again, that's the thing about energy planning, and it's why we should pay close attention to things like the Corporation Commission races, and why you need adults who understand policy and planning there. And I think Chairman Thompson's done a really good job. Yeah, done a really good job laying out the case for this, because when you bring up a massive infrastructure project like this that leads to that kind of generation, that cannot be shut down by the next administration on a whim. It's the kind of thing that it's like turning a battleship around, right? My grandfather used to say, you got to do it one click at a time. That's energy policy for the most part. But you're right. I mean, we are seeing unprecedented swings in these mandates, one or the other. It used to be no mandates were good. Now it's President Biden was big on green energy, even if the technology was more expensive and maybe not as proven, but that was what he was committed to. President Trump is committed to coal. He's committed to fossil fuels. He's committed to things that we know work and cost less. I think he's watched, and there's some truth to this, he's watched countries like China fire up 100 new coal plants in the last decade. Why we are shutting ours down, and we're falling behind in the energy generation battle. And there's a power battle coming. That will determine where these advanced tech factories go.
You're no stranger to the argument. We live in Arizona. We're just talking about the 118-degree day. I mean, like, Arizona could be a leader in solar energy and solar production. I mean, why shouldn't the state be embracing that more and more and more and moving away from this?
I would argue again. I mean, it's kind of an all of the above. I don't think anyone isn't embracing solar or even wind. I would say in the private sector. I think President Trump's
and we know what the president thinks of wind.
What he thinks, but
and windmills. But they kill birds.
They do. The eagles. You got to think about the eagles. But no. But let's talk about the truth of those statements again. It does matter that the technology is not where it's supposed to be. We might have 300 sunny days in Arizona, but the storage capability that you generate from that, it doesn't play into the grid the same way. It is very complicated. And I think when the technology is ready, we will have continued our investment and be ready for it. And it's not just platitudes. On either side, sometimes we'll just turn Cholla back on. Like, you could do that, and that would be an $8 billion cost to ratepayers. Or just build solar all over the state. It just doesn't work that way. So this is a responsible plan. Natural gas is an ideal bridge until those sustainable technologies are ready. And I think Arizona will be, when solar is really as efficient and effective as it needs to be, Arizona will be the #1 state for it.
So before we move on from this topic, give us some good data on this. Like, what does this mean in terms of job production, money for the state? Sure. Give us some data on this.
Again, the data in terms of numbers of what the pipeline is being financed and built by a company, Transwestern, and it's about a $5 billion project. So that's great. You get the construction, you get those labor costs, but really where it matters, you mentioned it, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure. Businesses love certainty. And what we can do now, what utilities can do, is when you have companies come in and say, well, where are we going to get our power from? You can point to projects like this pipeline and say, we'll have the generation capability to service your needs, to service your employees' needs going forward. And that is worth thousands and thousands of jobs right now, because that is the game. Right now, we have a better power grid than Texas, a state supposedly known for its energy resources. They deregged years ago, and they have rolling blackouts. They have a winter storm. They lose power for 2 weeks. That doesn't happen in Arizona.
Yeah. It is interesting because Arizona's been one of the fastest growing states for a long time. Yeah. You need power in infrastructure to support that kind of growth. But let's move on to some more fun topics. Because I know always one of your favorite topics to talk about is tariffs. Looks like the tariffs. And this past week we had Tariff Thursday. They went back on, I believe, 10% across the board, basically, or for like 60 countries, including the EU. Some countries that you're seeing tariffs go up even higher. And I see you getting a little white-knuckled over there. Tariff is like a triggering word for Mr. Seiden.
Well, we talked about tariffs back in January. I mean, the first time. We've been talking about them nonstop because what this administration's policy with tariffs has done that I would say is most problematic is you and I are talking about what happened yesterday on Thursday.
Yeah, we tape on Friday.
You tape on Friday, right? Whenever this runs. By the time this runs, those percentages could all be different. I mean, we've seen this president come out and say he's mad at Canada for something they said. He's going to throw a 35% on it. Does that include the USMCA, exceptions that we fought so hard for, that Lucid builds economic? We never know.
Yeah.
And Dennis, that's a real problem because we are seeing a slowdown in things like purchasing and financing heavy equipment because a bank can't price that out. You can't go to a Wells Fargo and to banks that really finance the purchasing of these fabs and these lithographs and all of that because we don't know what they're going to cost. There's no force majeure clause in a contract that says because President Trump raised tariffs, we'll now give you some margin. It's really tough to make deals and buy things right now. And again, we are seeing price increases all over the place. And I know some people say, well, aren't they working, Danny? Because there's been nearly $1 trillion coming in. And I would say, well, if that's your goal, if it's to bring in some revenue, they're working like taxes work, because that's what it is. It's a tax on importers. We're paying them in America. Hopefully everyone at least understands that now. And that's an objective fact, by the way, that Americans and producers and consumers, we pay for those tariffs. That's how it happens. Now, maybe on the macro level, it's not always one-to-one, and a country will cut the cost of a good to help ease the 40% tariff that we Americans will be paying for, but we're paying for it. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the problem with this model right now. You saw GM come out, in the past couple of weeks with billions of dollars in losses. You saw Ford report $1 billion plus losses, and they attributed it to the tariffs because all the stuff they use to make cars. Now, they manufacture the final vehicle here, sure, but all the stuff they use comes from 8 other countries, 18 other countries.
And there's a question about sometimes you can cross the same border more than once.
Yeah.
I think there's some products that can go across the border 3-4 times, like the Canadian-American border. Does it get taxed every time it comes across the border?
When we were fighting in the Ducey administration, where I was his deputy chief of staff, and I oversaw the federal side of things, we were fighting for the USMCA agreement on the state level. We were studying that. Just how many times does a car component go between, Canada down to Mexico because of the way the wire is coded there? It's amazing to see how our supply chain works. And it's just not set up in America right now. So those prices are going to continue to go up. And what I've learned is, in economics, you've heard the theory laissez-faire means hands off. That used to be what
that was Republicans.
Doctrine.
That was dogma, Republican dogma, actually.
Let the market do it.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here with this president, for better or for worse, I think history will be very interesting how they write about this. It's the opposite of laissez-faire is this theory called directed or dirigism. It's like a French word, same thing, meaning just directed. So, he's literally putting his thumb on the scale of our economy. Anytime there's bad news, like this jobs report, what happens next? A lot of pressure on Apple to announce another investment, whether or not that was already planned or not. It's you got to give him credit that he's finding ways to produce what sounds like a win amidst any bad news. And when you're this involved, he's tweeted out against Walmart, the largest private employer in our country, when they had to raise their prices for tariffs. He's, commented on the firing of a CEO of a company like Intel. He is knee deep, eyeballs deep, I would say, in the entire economy right now. And it's going to be fascinating to look back and see how history writes about what this meant and how it plays out. I don't think any of us really know right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned the jobs report, and first, but before we get to that, what are your members telling you? Are they, holding off on hiring? Are they looking at this point on reducing workforce? Are they preparing for a recession? What are you hearing from them? Or are they saying like, look, Dan, this is overblown. This is no problem.
No one is saying. People who engage in large purchasing, large financing, who are making things. No one's saying this is overblown because again, they still don't understand it yet. They don't have the full picture. If we know. When you sign like a USMCA, you have a multi-year treaty that's going to govern what you pay for goods, and you can build a business model around that. When things change by the day sometimes, there's just no way to do that, Dennis. So they're telling us this uncertainty is causing them to pause. They don't know the best way to shore up a supply chain for some things in automotive, in semiconductors, in lithographs, because they have to figure out which country's at what percent and how can we keep the cost as low as possible for the consumer so they can still sell things. And that's what's happening behind the scenes right now. So the uncertainty is hurting things, and there have been some reductions in workforces. We're seeing, unfortunately, Intel going through a tough time with that right now. We're seeing other folks in some of the tech sector. Now, Arizona is doing a pretty good job absorbing that because we've so diversified our economy. So, you haven't seen our unemployment numbers go up. Again, some of the policies we've put in place here that really matter, that have made it a friendly place to do business, is helping.
Because that's what we heard, toward the beginning of the year when he started talking at Liberation Day. All the talk was from the economists, from the business community, was like, by the time we get to by the end of the summer, the fall, It's it could be in a recession. This could be terrible, but it doesn't seem like we've seen that kind of fallout or that kind of economic pain. And there are some theories about that a lot of companies were stockpiling goods ahead of all this, expecting the tariffs to come down. But they could be reaching the end of that. Some companies have been eating the costs. They didn't want to pass on to the consumer. What's your take?
I mean, again, I would just point to the market. And when I say the market, I mean, let's look at a Ford, let's look at a GM. They want to go along with the president. They want him to be successful, but they have no choice but to report losses because of the tariffs. You have you have our retailers, and you're right. There was a buildup of your inventory, and that's being cleared out. The real question will be when you get to October, which is the month when what happens? Christmas shopping, big retail month. If the inventory has been cleared, that's going to be a fresh look at Americans seeing what their goods now cost in this uncertain tariff regime that we're in, and that'll be really telling for us. But again, the recession alarms are going off in certain sectors. You're seeing some of it, and but in others, they're being bolstered up. I think tech has really held, tech manufacturing has really held our country together right now in terms of protecting us against slipping into the R word. But again, it's so uncertain. We're all hoping for the best, and we're hoping that we get some certainty and can move forward. But
one piece of bad economic news we did get recently was the jobs report for July. It only added 73,000 jobs, and then that same report they had revised the prior month's job creations downward by a considerable amount. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it was a several 100,000. Am I wrong on that?
No, it was over 100,000
for
sure.
Yeah. It was a lot of jobs.
And that happens. To be fair, those revisions you see happen all the time too, because of when people report, they have to get the unemployment insurance figures. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into how you calculate that. So again, I don't think anything nefarious or scandalous or fraudulent was afoot. I think it's tough to be an economist reporting on just basic statistics nowadays. As you know, that person is no longer employed.
I was going to say, you don't think there's anything nefarious, but the president sure was not, convinced they were doing the numbers on the up and up. He fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You represent an organization. I'm sure depends a lot on accurate information. Can you trust the numbers coming out of Washington moving forward?
It's very alarming to see that. It's very alarming to see personnel decision, of a nonpartisan civil servant like that made so quickly in relation to what the president might consider news he doesn't like. Because it sets off this alarm, like, is this really what he's trying to do with Powell? Because there's some of us wondering if the jobs report was right the last 2 months, would Chairman Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve, would he have lowered interest rates, making money cheaper and stimulate home building, home buying, and in a different sector of the economy? So there's just so many variables out there. But no, we use those statistics, we use those labor statistics to predict what the consumer market's going to look like for certain things, like what's consumer sentiment going to be, what is our talent needs, what is our talent base. So we need to be able to rely on accurate numbers, but we're entering this day and age now where people just don't trust anything. So I think more and more we're going to be relying on ourselves to come up with our numbers. We're going to be relying on compiling what we can and say is objective. But they have been a good source for years of what the jobs report has been. And again, what drives me a little bit crazy about this is we always say you kind of live or die by the numbers or rankings you pick. Arizona has been top 5 for every category for a while, and the second we're not in top 5, everyone's like, oh, red alarm. No. You look at the whole picture the whole entire time. And if you want to overreact to a revision on jobs report and going down, that's scary. Because what if the numbers were good? I guess she could have kept her job. I mean, that's what matters. It's just gonna be dependent on, is it news the president likes? So that's a little concerning. But again, there's enough safeguards out there that we'll navigate through this.
So just very succinctly though, for someone who may not understand, when you don't trust the numbers coming out of DC, what is the impact on Arizona?
It's tough to make decisions. If you're an employer in Arizona, if you are a manufacturer, for instance, you want to see what those numbers are to kind of predict out what your inventory needs are, how you build up things. And if you can't trust those numbers, it really kind of like makes you question what's really happening out there in the economy instead of us all working together. And that's kind of like the odd thing here, because there's a lot of good things the president's doing. I mean, I will sing the praises of EPA, all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. I will talk about in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the good provision, which was taking his Tax Cut and Jobs Act from 2017 and making that permanent, because that helps my members. That permanent cost of your corporate income tax, of your pass-through tax, tells you what is the true cost of doing business in our country. That's a huge number for them. So when you don't have permanency on something like the jobs report, on something like what's happening out there in all the other sectors, that's problematic. And it causes less certainty, less confidence. And you want these folks to have confidence. You want the people out there who are making the hiring decisions, who are making the how much more are we going to build? Are we going to add another, fab here? You want them to be confident in the numbers and confident in the American economy.
Just seems weird. Like overall, you started talking about how he made the tax cuts permanent, and that's good for your members. And let's face it, your members are wealthier than the average Arizonan.
Dennis, just to be fair, my members also employ, the majority of employees in the state.
Yeah, but for those employers, you take all this together. You take the permanent tax cuts. A lot go to the wealthy, most go to the wealthy, and then you put the tariffs on the goods. It seems very regressive, because by percentage of income, someone who's lower on the economic scale, a higher percentage of their income is going to go to pay for tariffs, while on the other side, the very wealthy get to keep a lot more of their taxes. It seems very regressive.
It's an interesting theory to think about. Yeah. Is that how it plays out? But the problem with that, just taking what you just said at face value, would be, if you want to gobble up all the profit at the top and you don't want to pass anything down to your employees, you don't want to give them raises, you don't want to increase their quality of life, no one's going to go out and buy the goods that you're selling. So it doesn't work in the economy that way. They have to know what their margin is in order to still get people to buy things, which is why you're seeing our retailers eating a lot of the costs right now, and hoping that they can navigate this rough terrain, then have certainty, and then do some accurate pricing, and hopefully wages will go up and all the other indicators that we look to.
All right, we'll have to end it right there, man. Before you go, we're on the cusp of football season. I believe preseason starts over the weekend. So win total for the Arizona Cardinals this year.
Oh man,
I think DraftKings, or I think the sport betting markets have them at 8.5 wins. Do you take the over or the under on that?
You got to take the over. We play in a tough division, absolutely, but here's why. Kyler Murray is looking like a real leader this year. I've been watching him in interviews. I think he's taken these massive leaps forward. Mm-hmm. Coach Gannon is an all-star coach. He's changed the culture of that organization. Michael Bidwell has really spent and focused on their draft talent too. I mean, they've got a cornerback who was a steal, who's going to be starting. There's Will Johnson. There's so much to be excited about with this team, to see the development between Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. and everything else. So I'm excited for the Cardinals. I'm excited for all of our sports. I'm excited for ASU. I mean, Coach Dillingham gets me fired up every time I hear him talk. So we'll see how it all looks. But I think Arizona's going to have a great football year, and
I'm excited that you're excited about Kyler Murray, because Colin, huge fan.
Oh, is he really good? He should be. You want to see this?
He's a huge.
There might be some sarcasm there. I don't know, but
a little bit of sarcasm.
I think that he's a phenomenal talent, and there's a maturity that we're seeing. I mean, he's getting there early. He's working with his teammates. The way he's speaking, I think he's really taking a big leap.
Yeah, I think Colin should be taking a long listen to that.
And you're gonna be, if he gets injured on week 1, I'm gonna be trolled endlessly. I get it, but no, I'm gonna be optimistic. I think Coach Gannon.
We need something in the sport market after the 2 seasons from the Suns, from the D-backs. The sport ball world in Arizona, we need something.
And we
positive.
talked about D-backs last time I was on your show. Stadium deal got done for the most part. We need the county lease to finish it, but they got bit by the energy bug. I mean, it was almost like some witch doctor put a curse on that team, and maybe
it was the tax bill that passed. Maybe that's in Chicago it was a billy goat. Maybe now, because of this tax bill it passes, it curses the Diamondbacks. That years from now they'll be talking about this bill.
You know what? We kept the Diamondbacks here. They're not going to Utah. They're staying here.
They never were going to Utah.
Dennis, tell that to the Coyotes or the Mammoth or whatever they are now.
Nobody cared. The Coyotes left, and guess what? Like 2 people were upset.
No, there's we get a lot
3.
of Canadians. We get a lot of Canadians who maybe aren't coming here as much anymore because of immigration policies. But we get a lot of Canadians.
I think it's
who love hockey. And I'll say this: the Diamondbacks are good about finding their identity when they're underdogs. And I think this is going to be a scrappy, fun team. Listen to Derek talk about it. I get a little pumped up for that too.
Well, I think they're going to be finding their identity for a few years now.
Well, no one thought they'd be in the World Series 2 seasons
Look,
ago.
I'm an Arizona sport ball fan. Like, look, I've been traumatized. Traumatized.
Hey, the Diamondbacks gave you a World Series championship trophy.
Yeah.
So
24 years ago
feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it sure does. You got to hang on to that, man. It's also robbed us in some real heartbreakers. So,
that's true.
all right, Mr. Seiden, always great seeing you, man. Until next time, you're always welcome. By the way,
thanks, Dennis. I appreciate it. Yeah, we didn't even get to half the stuff I wanted to talk about today.
I know it's the way
Colin,
it goes.
you got to keep us on track. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll do better next time.
All right, man. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dennis.
Welcome back to the second half of the Politics Unplugged podcast, and as always, joined by Colin Stanton, the great, amazing producer of this little show. Colin,
always a pleasure.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. You?
All right, I'm doing okay, man. And we're in a little bit in a minute here. We're going to get into the politics of the NFL, and we'll also discuss what Colin would like to call his wee quarterback segment, his wee little quarterback segment.
Yeah. I have an issue with weak quarterbacks.
Man, you got to see the light. Hopefully, he makes you see the light this year.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll be happy to be wrong.
Yeah. But first, there was you wanted to chat about a Gallup poll that really stuck with you, and this had to deal with the Democrat Party, and they had polled like who the most popular. Well, both parties really. They polled who the most popular person was from both parties.
Yeah.
And what were the top lines of that poll?
The popular Democrats were AOC and Bernie Sanders. And the most popular member of the Trump administration was RFK Jr.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
Let's start with RFK.
Yeah.
I don't know what that tells me. I have no idea what that tells me. That's utterly bizarre to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have I don't get that.
I think there's some name recognition there.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of what RFK's not always in the news. I think in our bubble, we know what RFK is doing and what he's been up to. And whether you're a vaxxer, pro-vaccinations, anti-vaccinations, I mean, that's going to factor into your decision.
Yeah.
But a lot of people probably just recognize the Kennedy name and really aren't aware of the good or bad things, depending on where you stand on this, that he is doing now as head of the Health and Human Services Department.
Could be, and it's also worth noting his numbers were not good.
Yeah,
they were just higher than everyone else in the Trump administration.
Sure.
And people may look at it and say, well, he's trying to make our food healthier, which great, but.
Cane sugar instead of corn fructose.
I mean, we all love Mexican Coke, so
goddamn right we do.
Who knows if he could actually take any credit for that whatsoever? But yeah, I mean, if Coke suddenly becomes all like Mexican Coke, then great. It's the Democratic side I find fascinating because the Democratic leadership, the Democratic power structure will do anything to kill off the people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, and for that matter, Zoran Mandani in New York City.
And we're seeing that with Mandani now, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the hit pieces on Mandani are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he's very much in line with AOC and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
The last hit piece I saw that I thought was remarkable from the New York Times, saying that the shooting at the NFL headquarters, where the guy came from Denver with a gun and then shot people at the NFL headquarters,
claiming he had CTE or something.
Yes.
Yeah. But never played professional football.
Correct. Played high school football. But apparently had claimed he had played NFL football. He was in a bad place.
Yeah.
The New York Times had some sort of editorial thing suggesting that whole thing was going to be really bad for Mondani in the fall. So how exactly? He's running against Eric Adams, the current mayor of the city where this happened, who's a former cop. And when the NYPD says jump, Adams asks how high. They get whatever they want from Adams.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a problem for him. It's going to be a problem for the guy who's not all that fond of the NYPD. And second, how does that reflect on anyone in New York?
Yeah.
Dude drove up with a gun and that day walked in shooting. I don't know what you anticipate the NYPD to do about that. But if you expect something other than what you got, that's an Eric Adams problem.
Yeah.
But they'll use anything to go after Mamdani now. I just thought that was so bizarre.
Yeah, there's definitely a line of thought out there too, and a real belief that the Democratic Party really, blocked the last two really rigged their primaries. If you go back to 16, or if you go back to 16, they stopped Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
They cleared, clearing the way for Hillary Clinton. 4 years later, they cleared the way for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have an open primary last year. And there is some anger, in part of the Democratic Party for that. And some people looking at that going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the significance of the poll. Like two most popular figures, Bernie Sanders and AOC, like two of the more progressive, left-leaning figures.
Yeah.
And again, Bernie's not really a Democrat; he's independent, right? But I think it says a lot that that they work hard to they've worked hard to block one of the presidential candidates in the past that is very popular. The same thing would probably happen if AOC decided to run for president.
Yeah. And so the goal seems to be to get someone no one cares about, like Hillary.
Yeah. Oh, they cared about Hillary.
Yeah.
But it was, it wasn't like we like Hillary. There's a lot of people who cared a lot about the Clintons, but they don't care.
Yeah,
really care to like them.
and the standard approach we have now is like you watch Senator Gallego going to Iowa, and people are applauding because he's moving to the center on immigration. And on the TV show earlier, they were talking about how everyone criticized Kristen Sinema for moving right, but Rubin's moving right and is viewed as smart because he could run for president. And at some point, I think it might be worth acknowledging that your average Democratic voter isn't looking for a Republican to vote for. No. They're looking for a Democrat they like and want to vote for. And if you put Rubin against like AOC on a campaign trail, the excitement and enthusiasm is not going to be behind Rubin. And Rubin's a strong candidate. He's got a great story, but there's a real demand for something.
And it's the politics of the state, why he does that. As much as people will get upset and got upset with Sinema, and will get upset and have gotten upset with Gallego, is you represent a whole state.
Yeah,
and you realize that you represent people who will never vote for you.
Yeah,
and you've got to do something with that. This is a state, like it or not, that voted for strong immigration and border measures. This is a state that that wants to get tough on the border, and it's a majority, and is a red-leaning state. National media loves to paint this picture of Arizona as, it's a purple state. Like, bullshit, it is.
It's not. It's just it's not MAGA enough to be a
fully
red state. Up till now, at least, the hardcore MAGA candidates can't win statewide office.
No. It's like you just want to call bullshit every couple of years. It's like, come out here and spend some time. Out here. There's a reason why, like you said. I mean, Kari Lake was a deeply flawed candidate.
Yes.
Blake Masters was a deeply flawed candidate, and on and on and on.
I mean, Kari Lake was an intentionally deeply divisive candidate.
Yeah.
And you juxtapose that with Kimberly Yee, who was running against a perfectly reasonable opponent.
She's the baseline. If you're running a scientific test, she's your baseline.
Yes.
Generic R. I love Kim. I don't mean to say like Kim Yee is generic in any way. I've always had a good relationship. I like Kim Yee, but she's the generic R.
Yes. She ran as a Republican. She was not running as a hardcore MAGA Republican. She was a Republican candidate. And in Treasure, people don't really know who you are. You're not high profile. She was not high profile at that point. Her opponent was not particularly high profile.
Yeah.
But it was perfectly reasonable Republican candidate against a perfectly reasonable Democratic candidate, and that Republican candidate beat the hell out of the Democratic candidate.
Yes.
And no one else won statewide office of Republicans because they were all Kerry Lake or similar.
Yeah, and Martha McSally ran a deeply flawed campaign. Martha McSally is a hell of a resume. Is I think a good person from what I've known of her. It's just she was really bad at the political thing on the statewide level, and she lost it. It came down to candidates. So, and I get why if you just take a broad look at this, you're like, oh, there's a purple state. Like, what gives you, independents? People, party not designated is a larger voting bloc than the Democratic fucking Party of Arizona.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Stop telling me it's purple.
It's also worth noting, I think, people like to talk about Kyrsten Sinema moving to the right and alienating the voter base, which I don't think is a very accurate depiction of what happened. She went against everything she'd run for.
Yeah.
She went there and immediately became the polar opposite of who she had been her entire political career.
She curtsied when she voted down the minimum wage increase.
The person who had run on increasing the minimum wage got the chance to do it and voted against it, seeming to laugh at everyone as she did it. That was the image she created as she voted it down.
Someone who became very disconnected with Arizona.
Yes.
So, you can make the argument, though, like with what Rubin is doing, and back to why Rubin's doing this is the politics of this state. He wants to, he is interested in being in that position to run for president.
Yes.
He wants to, be ready, make himself available. If lightning strikes, maybe he ends up on the ticket, either top or bottom of the ticket. That's where I think his head's at. Why not do that? On the other hand, he's also got to keep an eye on keeping his seat in the future, and it's good politics for him in this state to be a little tougher on the border if you're a Democrat.
Yes.
Because, again, for all the reasons we just outlined, I mean, it's still at least at the very least, a Republican-leaning state.
Yes.
So I think that's a little bit going on. Why, a little bit happening now nationwide. Yeah.
Yes.
Bernie
Nationwide
Sanders,
is where.
AOC.
Yes.
Those kinds of candidates.
Run a Democrat with liberal Democratic ideals and see how they do.
And give
because I think they're going to do really well.
Yeah,
and excite a voter base who has come to really dislike the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought, and 2016, obviously Donald Trump was the most significant political figure that year. I thought Bernie Sanders was the second most political because he literally starts his campaign off on the lawn of the Senate with just a handful of reporters.
Yeah.
And it turned into a movement that needed to be stopped. Why? He was saying a lot of the same stuff or adjacent stuff, Trump was saying. You're getting screwed over.
Yeah.
And and that was kind of Bernie's message. You're getting screwed over. And we've got to go after corporate greed. And he's saying Trump wasn't saying that, but Bernie was saying
he was not.
but the top line stuff is you're getting screwed over.
Yeah.
And it's the system that's doing it to you. And Bernie was different. Corporate greed is bad. It's killing the country. There's a reason that resonated with a lot of those voters. There's a reason that the Democratic Party had to work to try to stop that kind of energy. They were scared of it.
Yes. And if they try and kill it again, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Other polling I've seen shows that, Republicans love the Republican Party. Democrats don't like the Republican Party. Republicans hate the Democratic Party, and Democrats hate the Democratic Party.
Jeez.
Because the leadership is just inept and stuck. And
what do you mean? Leadership here, at least locally in the Arizona Democratic Party, has been stellar.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
All of it.
Oh, it's just
all the leaders they've had throughout the last few months because they fired them and replaced
even
them.
the leader they just fired. He was great all the way up until they fired him.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, whatever.
All right. You want me to rip on short quarterbacks now? Is there anything else?
Dude, I'm such a big fan of Kyler Murray, and it just
I know you are.
It just hurts. It
I have
hurts
nothing
me.
personal against Kyler Murray.
I think if we dig in a little deeper, I think maybe there's going to be something personal.
I don't know.
It's like the Seinfeld episode with Keith Hernandez. Like,
Yeah.
why were you mad? He ruined my day.
No, I don't think Kyler ever spit on me.
I don't think he ever ruined your day, though. I mean,
No.
yeah.
No. No, I mean, you're always high on Kyler Murray, and every year I'm like, I just don't think a quarterback that size can be that effective. And Cliff Kingsbury never, ever did anything to try to succeed with a quarterback his size. He acted like he had a 6'5" quarterback, and he did not. And I think they did a slightly better job last year. I still am just skeptical as hell. And look, to show it's not personal, the Cleveland Browns have a quarterback battle going on right now. They've got 5 quarterbacks right now. One of them is Dylan Gabriel, who was the quarterback of my Oregon Ducks last year. And Dylan Gabriel was a phenomenal college quarterback. Love Dylan Gabriel. He was great. He would be a tremendous pro if he were 4 inches taller. But he's not. He's, I think, a little taller than Kyler. And I don't think he's going to make it in the pros simply because of that size issue.
We'll see. Drew Brees did pretty well for himself. Fran Tarkenton did pretty well for himself.
Fran Tarkenton was also playing against linemen who are the size of quarterbacks today. The size issue back when Tarkenton played was a different thing. The Purple People Eaters, the legendary, monstrously
Alan
huge
Page.
linemen, yes, who were just so huge and physically dominating. Do you know Dante Culpepper was larger than any of them? Quarterback for the Vikings years after that.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying the size difference was different when it was Tarkenton. And Drew Brees, I think, is still bigger than the guys I'm talking about. He's still bigger than Kyler. And
I'm just saying, Drew Brees. I don't think he was.
No, maybe it can happen. Maybe they too can be
This is
successful
the year.
quarterbacks.
This is the year,
terrible
Colin.
Analysts
This
on
is the
TV.
year. This is the damn year, Colin. It's going to happen
I hope
this
so.
year.
That would make me happy. I
Definitely.
just maintain my level of skepticism that hasn't really been proven wrong through the career so far.
I don't want to get into the weeds on the Cardinals, but yeah, he's going to prove you wrong this year.
Good.
I
will be happy.
Just
if that
you
happens.
wait and see, sir.
Yes.
You also brought up something pretty interesting I hadn't been thinking about. For those are unaware, there's a big deal announced between the NFL and ESPN.
Yeah.
This past week, and maybe you could break down a few more details on that. And then, there was a pretty interesting take you had on this.
Yeah. Well, so ESPN is taking over some of the NFL's media properties. Like the Red Zone is going to ESPN. They will control it. I think they're going to essentially be programming the NFL Network now. So a lot of the media properties of the NFL going to ESPN, and in return, the NFL is getting a 10% stake in the network. The thing I find fascinating about this is this will presumably need regulatory approval from the Trump administration.
Oh, boy.
We've seen how that works so far. Paramount was just throwing bribes at the Trump administration to get them to approve a merger there. Trump has had a long-standing vendetta with the NFL. I don't see regulatory approval coming without some concessions from the NFL. And I'm just curious to see what that will be and
It might have to do
how
something.
willing they are to do it.
I wonder if it has anything to do with a certain football team in the nation's capital changing its name.
Yes, formally with a racist name, and he was already trying to pressure them to return to that racist name. I'm going to guess he doesn't like the Rooney Rule much. For those who are unaware, the Rooney Rule is there is a requirement named after Art Rooney,
Art Rooney, a longtime the owner of the Steelers.
Because the NFL had such a horrific track record of hiring black coaches, they created a rule that when you have an opening, you have to interview at least one black coach for that opening. If they don't get the job, at least they get face time with management and can develop some sort of rapport, and people will be familiar with them. And people have questioned whether it's still necessary, but there are times when it works. Mike Tomlin's been the coach of the Steelers for what, 20 years?
Yeah, but
close to it.
how many black coaches are there in the NFL?
It's gotten better.
It's gotten better.
It's gotten better. It's still not a great record, but it's improved.
Yeah.
And it's improved while the Rooney Rule's been in place.
Yeah.
And Mike Tomlin was a guy who wasn't really on anyone's radar and then got interviews essentially so they could check a box for the Rooney Rule. And people went, oh, this guy's really smart. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up getting a shot as the Steelers head coach. And the dude's never had a losing season in 20 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, that doesn't seem like the type of program that Trump's going to be down with.
Yeah,
if I had to guess, I'm going to
you'd probably
guess
call it a DEI rule.
that is exactly what he will call it. Yes.
Yeah. Why you got to bum me out, man? No.
I'm curious to see if the merger goes through because I don't know that the NFL needs the merger enough to do what I anticipate they're going to be asked to do to make it go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, just given the economics of the NFL and the declining revenues for, like, legacy media like ESPN and stuff like that, I would think that the ESPN needs the NFL a whole lot more than NFL needs ESPN.
Quite possible, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait. Is there been any reporting on this yet?
No, they just announced the plans a week or so ago, so we're a long way from any sort of regulatory approval issues.
All right, as long as I don't have to switch my red zone.
Yeah,
this fall would be great. We can do it in the off season.
I have found I don't enjoy red zone.
I
In
love
short
red zone.
bursts, when it first started, I thought it was great, and increasingly, I'd rather just watch the game instead of just jump around and have no sense of what's happening. And
I like because I get a sense of like all the different teams, what they're doing. I will watch the Cardinal game. Start to finish. And if there's an interesting matchup, I'll in a certain window, I'll watch that. But I do enjoy watching Red Zone. And I got to say, man, the Red Zone host, hardest working man until that job is amazing.
A tough job. They do a good job.
Like I sit there and watch it. Like friends will be watching it with me, and it's just like I'm like, dude, guys, you have no idea how amazing what's going on here every weekend.
Yes,
like 7 hours, like nonstop, like. Hey, yes, there's a lot of questions. Like, where do you go to the bathroom at, man? But, like, like the staff there has got to be on it. And, like, this guy is just unflappable.
Yeah. Jumping from game to game to game to game. And you have to have some sense of what's happening at each of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable.
He's an American treasure, Colin.
Yes. Andrew Siciliano.
Yep. Yeah. He's great, man.
I mean, if you got a fantasy football team, Red Zone's cool.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly seeing that. I've just found over time that I'd rather watch a game and have like an investment in one game instead of just seeing a parade of touchdowns.
No, well, it's not a parade of touchdowns. It's like they get near the red zone, and then you see it, and then like so that's kind of fun, and you get to see. I get to see a lot of players from a lot of different teams.
Yeah,
and that's what I like. But when it comes to the Cardinals, like 1 o'clock window comes around, it's NFL.
Time to lock in.
Yeah, time to lock in, man. And it's great because I can just have it on in the background on a Sunday. I'm going around doing whatever I'm doing, and it's just in the background, like, the Bears scored. Cool. Yeah. All right, man. Any predictions for your college Oregon Ducks? What do you think the over/under is with them? And do you think they will beat the Iowa Hawkeyes when they go on the road to Iowa City?
Yes.
I knew you'd say that.
I have no idea, man. We'll be good. We'll be solid. I think we're picked 7th in the one poll I saw.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a wager.
I mean, if you want to, man, we.
Yeah, but we have to stack the odds here. Like,
no, we don't.
Yeah, we may have to. We may have to do something here. Like, I don't know. There's a big question for Iowa. They've got a new quarterback who's supposedly really, really good. And to give you a sense of how bad the quarterback play in Iowa has been, showed this new quarterback in camp. He rolls out, throws a tight spiral, and a perfect pass to a guy 10 yards down by the out of bounds marker.
Yeah,
guy catches it, and it went viral. Dude, and I'm telling you,
completed pass with a tight spiral. And
Yeah.
like, this could be the year.
look, man, I'm telling you, if you haven't been watching Iowa football, and you should not be, it's really terrible television. Like, I get why people were hyped.
There have been times where I've watched Iowa games just because I know it means a lot to you. So I'll go ahead and sit and watch it, and we can talk about it.
Oh, it's
and
tough, dude.
man, it's not anything anyone should be watching.
Oh no! And like, you got to give me credit because I'm honest about it. Like, no, it's terrible
Yeah,
television.
no, it's horrendous. Yeah, I mean,
they-
if you've got like a punting fetish, it's great.
Yeah, because like their offense has just been so bad, and usually their defense is so good they make the other offense look just as bad.
Yeah,
I mean, you think about it, like as bad as it's been. Like 2 years ago, they won 10 games. Last year, they won 8 games.
Yeah,
And like with just garbage quarterback play, and
yeah.
I swear to God, there was a game once. It was 7-3, Iowa in the lead, and there had not been a touchdown scored. How do you get to How do you get to 7? 2 sacks and a field goal.
2 safeties and a field goal.
Yeah, 2 safeties and a field goal.
That's tremendous.
And people were calling Kurt Ferentz as the head coach his masterpiece. Because
succeeding with an unorthodox roster on defense as well.
I mean, football is just so much different than when we were kids. I mean, you they want you to win, and Kurt Ferentz has done that.
Yeah.
But they also want you to win with a little bit of style points.
It would be nice if you could win and be watchable at the same time.
That's the thing. And like, it's just, I don't know. And then like, your team's coming to Iowa City. I'm like, great. Get all sick kids from the children's hospital over across the street. Why do you got to subject them to that ass kicking?
Yeah. They don't need to see this.
They don't need to see this. It's brutal.
Just go ahead and wave to them and then close the blinds.
And the joke was their quarterback play was so bad. People were writing how it was mean to force the kids to watch this. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
But the viral video, I'll show it to you when we get off here.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be like, that went viral. Like, yes.
Yeah.
That went viral.
Yeah. The quarterback can throw a spiral.
Yeah. You can.
This is our year.
You can throw it. Well, because like
we think he played in high school.
Yeah, I mean, for about 3-4 years in a row is like you had the most god awful quarterbacks, who kept overthrowing their receivers by a lot. Like, if their receivers were 8 feet tall, they might have a chance.
Yeah,
like it was just the most insane thing. And like these, and people would be wide open because with Iowa, they always run the ball. You should be able to just throw it out there a little bit. And these guys are open.
Yeah.
Just the quarterback was just terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, God, whatever.
Oregon's been slightly better at quarterback over the last few years.
Yeah, shut up. You got all that sweet Nike money behind your program.
Well, spend a little of that deep corn money.
Big corn versus big
corn.
shoe. Big corn versus big shoe.
Yeah. So far, Big Shoe seems to be winning.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan is wealthier than the entire state of Iowa.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
Yeah. All right, man. You want to end it right there?
Let's do it.
All right, dude. You have a great weekend.
You too. See you next
All
week.
right, see ya.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.